wanted to talk a little bit about mental game, and we're going to credit Steve Anderson a ton just because he's kind of the one that's kind of pioneered this into the USPSA world specifically, and then maybe going all the way back to like Lanny Basham in his book. So let's just hop off on that, right? Lanny Basham, with Winning in Mind. You've read that, I'm assuming, Josh.
I read it, and it's an easy book to read. I read it over a week while I was doing some training, and I immediately flipped it over and read it again. So in 1 week, I read it twice. So it's not a long book, and it's easy to read, and it was that good. I got that much out of it that I immediately reread it.
So I've read it probably 2 or 3 times now, and I revisit it. So I read the book. I took Steve Anderson's mental management class, and then I reread the book, and I got so much more out of the book the second time just from taking the class with Steve Anderson, who is a mental management certified certified person. I don't even know what you call it, right? But he's certifiable. but it was such a eye opener, game changer. This is going to be 3 podcasts in a row where I mentioned that I just made masterclass in USPSA.
Congrats.
So I got to keep patting myself on the back. But I can directly say that the reason I made masterclass was from the mental game, because I shot less pistol rounds and shot the least amount of competitions this year, and I still got that much better, and I think it was just all a mental thing.
Yeah, it's really impressive, actually. Low round count year, you only shot 7 carry optics matches and made your master class.
Exactly. And I think it's all mental. You know, that book, have you read With Winning in Mind before?
No, I haven't read that.
So I've got it. You can borrow it. I mean, you have to read it. It's one of those things. So Lanny Basham basically is an Olympic shooter, a long-range shooter, I think.
Yeah, precision rifle Olympian.
Yeah.
Champion, and became a coach and trainer.
So I think ultimately what he did is he was competing for the Olympics and kept getting silver medals. Long story short, he wanted to get gold, or maybe he was getting bronze and he wanted gold. And so at one point he started tracking. So I guess you just shoot for the 10 ring. And so every single time he shot something other than a 10, he wrote down everything that he did wrong, or everything that he did. And when he was tracking that, he started noticing he started shooting less 10s. He started shooting more 9s and 8s. So he flipped it and said, all right, every time I make a 10, I'm going to write down what I did. And he started making more 10s. Right after that is when he started winning gold medals, winning world championships. So it was just a mental flip. It wasn't his skill got that much better. It was just that mental change in understanding what he was doing, and just mentally giving him that praise of, hey, I just got a 10, you can do this, keep going, that was awesome, so on and so forth.
Yeah. I need to reread this book again. Currently, it's been a couple years since I read it, but he kind of figured out this mental formula for how to have a positive mindset and how to train your brain to win, right? How to train your brain to focus on the things that actually help you succeed, as opposed to focusing on the things that just reinforce negative things, right? Or reinforce failure points. And as far as I know, Steve Anderson took a lot of his mental management and his training program from Lanny Basham, and it's obviously reflected in Steve's teachings and on his podcast and everything. I'm going to talk about Steve Anderson and Lanny Basham like they're biblical figure, like they're saints or something here.
Well, I've not met Lanny Basham, so we can talk about him as a saint. I've met Steve Anderson, so maybe he's like Jesus, because Jesus walked the earth, and so Steve Anderson walks the earth.
Steve Anderson's a real guy.
We know that for a fact, and he's a cool dude. One thing, so I took that mental management class. I will tell anybody listening to the podcast, I don't even care if you're not into USPSA. You're wrong if you're not into USPSA, right? But even if you're not, just taking his mental management. I think I got done. It's a 6-hour class, and it's done through a Zoom meeting. And I got done with that class, and I think Steve for his time. I told him it was amazing, and I think the words were, I don't even know that I care that this made me a better shooter. I think it made me that much better of a person or a father. Just the way that I I ask questions of my kids and I talk to them. It's never a negative thing.
Yeah.
They do bad on a test, and I don't tell them how bad they are. We focus on, hey, you got one question right out of 100. But look at that one. I mean,
right.
you did really well, and you're capable of doing it.
Yeah.
And I think we take that same mentality when we teach classes too. There's a lot of times we taught a class the other. Complete episode available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite podcasting app. New Green Ops podcast episodes available every Thursday. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss any of the new content.